That casual invitation from the woman who lived on the floor above, uttered while she stood in sweat-soaked workout clothes, completely changed the life of a 63-year-old man from the ground floor. In that moment, when her fingers lightly brushed against his hip, the instinct that had lain dormant in the man for 30 years finally awakened. At 2 in the afternoon, under the blazing sun, the man and the woman, each with a family of their own, lost all reason and, driven by pure instinct, began passionately entwining in each other's arms. Yet at the end of this sweet temptation, a completely unimaginable twist awaited them. Let me tell you an incredible story that will completely upend all your expectations. This year, James Morrison turned 63. After retiring from the bank the previous year, he lived as though forgotten by the world. He still woke at 7 every morning out of habit, but the realization that he had nowhere to go left him feeling helpless. "Jim, breakfast is ready," said his wife Eleanor, setting a plate on the table. At 65, she worked at a large supermarket nearby to make ends meet from 9 in the morning until 6 in the evening, sometimes later. "Thanks," James replied curtly, picking up his spoon. Breakfast used to be a precious time, marking the start of the day, but now it was filled only with awkward silence. "You're not going to sit around the house all day again, are you?" Eleanor's voice carried irritation. Every time she asked this question, James had no answer. "Well, I was thinking maybe I'd take a walk." "A walk? And what exactly do you do? Just walking around every day. You don't see me bending over backward at the supermarket?" "I'm looking for something too, but it's not that simple." "What are you looking for? You just sit inside staring at the TV, that's all." Eleanor pushed aside her half-eaten oatmeal, took a sip of water, and went after him again. "Retire, and that's it." Who ever heard of a man retiring and just sitting around with nothing to do? James, unable to say anything in response, lowered his head. From early morning, a cold silence settled over the house. Eleanor slung her bag over her shoulder and headed for the door. "Well, I'm off. You'll manage your own lunch." The sound of the door slamming echoed through the apartment. Left alone at the table, James finished his now cold breakfast. And so began yet another day. At 10 in the morning, he went out for his usual walk around the neighborhood. When the elevator doors opened, there she was. "Hello." It was the woman from the upstairs floor. She looked very young for her age. Today she was in workout clothes, black leggings that hugged her curves, a gray tank top, and a gym bag slung over her shoulder, making her look even more energetic. "Hello, off to practice again?" "Yes, I have a tennis lesson." "And you're off for a walk?" "That's right, lovely weather." When the elevator reached the first floor, she stepped out first and turned back. "Have a nice day. See you around." Watching her go, James felt a strange sensation. The black leggings perfectly highlighted the line of her legs, and her firm curves and slender waist were impossible to ignore. He didn't know how old she was, but she had an undeniably fit figure. Without realizing it, James found himself scanning her from head to toe. She was so different from his wife Eleanor, whose frame had softened and thickened over the years. She was full of life, confident, and, most of all, there was warmth in the look she gave him. What if she were interested in me? A reckless thought flickered through his mind. At 2 in the afternoon, back home, James sat on the living room couch and turned on the TV. A daytime drama about young love was playing, but the story felt distant to him. He flipped through channels until he landed on the news. Depression among people over 60 has become a serious social issue. It is especially acute among men who, after retirement, experience a loss of identity. The newscaster's words described James's situation exactly. A loss of identity. That was it. For more than 30 years, he had worked at the bank, fulfilling his role as the head of the family. Now, all of that was gone. At 7 in the evening, Eleanor returned from work. Seeing her exhausted face, James felt guilty. While he idled at home, she had been on her feet all day at the supermarket. "Tough day? What's for dinner? I'm too tired to do anything. I'll just make myself some instant noodles." Eleanor sank onto the couch with a sigh. "I'll cook." "No need, I'll do it myself." Eleanor's words felt like a cold rejection. He couldn't remember when their relationship had become like this. Every word a sharp jab. Several days passed. James's daily life remained dull, but thoughts of the neighbor he'd met in the elevator lingered in his mind. Her firm figure and lively demeanor wouldn't fade from memory. One Thursday afternoon, as James was taking laundry off the balcony, something fell from above. It was a pair of red lace panties. Clearly, they had come from the floor above. James picked them up, soft silk, adorned with floral lace. They were nothing like the shapeless cotton briefs Eleanor wore. They were delicate and feminine. How should he return them? He considered leaving them with the building management, but it didn't feel right for others to see such a personal item. In the end, James put the panties in a plastic bag and went upstairs. He rang the bell, and she opened the door almost immediately. Oh, hello. Claire was in workout gear again, gray leggings that clung to her body, leaving little to the imagination. Hello, these fell from your balcony. When James held out the bag, she blushed slightly. Oh, I'm so sorry. The wind must have blown them while I was hanging laundry. No harm done. These things happen. Thank you so much. Would you like to come in for a cup of coffee? Her invitation gave James pause. He wondered if it was proper to enter another woman's home while his own wife was away. Oh, no, thank you. I don't want to impose. Don't be silly. It's no imposition at all. I'd like to thank you properly. Won't you spare me a moment? Hearing her insistence, James finally nodded. All right. Just for a minute. Stepping into the living room, he was struck by the clean, stylish interior. The atmosphere was entirely different from his own apartment. Potted plants and tasteful art objects spoke to the owner's refined sensibilities. Please have a seat. I'll make the coffee. As she moved to the kitchen, James sat on the couch and looked around. On the side table stood photos of her with a man, presumably her husband. Your husband is away on business? Yes, he's been abroad for 3 months now, and there's no telling when he'll be back. There was a hint of sadness in her voice, drifting from the kitchen. Soon she returned with the coffee. As she sat on the couch, she maintained some distance, but that space only created a strange tension. I don't think I properly introduced myself. My name is Claire. And I'm James. Jim, if you prefer. Thank you again, Jim. Judging by the fact that you're home on a weekday, I take it you're retired? Yes, over 30 years at a bank. I retired last year. I see. You must be very bored at home. Hearing Claire's words, James smiled bitterly. Boredom didn't quite cover it. He was losing his mind with emptiness. It's not boredom, exactly. It's more like emptiness. Oh, I understand. I'm in a similar situation. With my husband away, I spend too much time alone at home. For a moment, they fell silent. It seemed their shared loneliness hung in the air between them. How long have you been playing tennis? Since last year. I started because I was lonely at home. It turned out to be quite enjoyable. Jim, perhaps you should find a hobby too. I don't know, starting something new at my age isn't easy. What does age have to do with it? I started after I turned 40. As Claire spoke, James found himself staring at her cherry-like lips. They looked soft and moist. He tried to remember the last time he had studied his wife's lips so closely, but couldn't. Are you all right? You've gone quite red. It must be the hot coffee. What are your relationships with your wife like? James was taken aback by her sudden question. Oh, it's fine. We've been together so long. We don't talk much anymore. I see. My husband and I barely call each other these days. Claire leaned slightly forward. As she did, the neckline of her blouse dipped, revealing her collarbone. James tried to look away, but it wasn't easy. More coffee? No, thank you. I really should be going. My wife will be home from work soon. When James stood, Claire rose too. Walking him to the door, her hand on the handle, she said, Thank you again for today, for returning my things and keeping me company. Don't mention it. If you're ever bored, please come by any time. I'm often alone. Her hand briefly touched his. It was a fleeting contact. But to James, it felt like an electric shock. Well, goodbye. Back home, James sat on the couch replaying what had just happened. Claire's warm gaze, her soft voice, the way she'd touched his hand, all so different from his wife. At 6:30, Eleanor returned from work. Did you go out? No, I was here. James didn't mention that he'd been upstairs to visit the neighbor. He told himself it was trivial, yet something kept him from speaking about it. At dinner, they ate in their usual silence, but Claire's image kept surfacing in James's mind. Her smile, her gestures, the way she'd spoken of her loneliness. What am I even thinking? he asked himself, but no clear answer came. Several days passed. James started using the elevator more often, hoping to run into Claire. But it wasn't that simple. One Tuesday afternoon, as he waited for the elevator, he saw Claire enter the building. She was in workout gear again, apparently returning from tennis. Perspiration dotted her face, and her athletic wear clung to her hourglass figure. "Hello there." "Hello, just back from practice?" "Yes, it was a bit tough today." They entered the elevator together. In the confined space, a subtle fragrance emanated from Claire. After her workout, her feminine scent seemed even more pronounced. "Jim, if you have time, would you like to come up for a cup of tea?" James hesitated. "I'm sorry, but my wife will be home soon." "It'll only be half an hour. Just some tea, that's all." Claire's gaze held a plea. It seemed she'd been alone for so long that she simply wanted someone to talk to. "All right, just a minute." Once inside Claire's apartment, she headed to the kitchen. "Wait just a moment. I'll brew the tea." A moment later, Claire emerged, looking flustered. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm out of tea. Would a glass of wine do instead? My husband bought some before he left." "I'm not much of a drinker." "One glass won't hurt." As Claire poured the wine, James sat on the couch. The atmosphere was more relaxed than last time, yet carried a subtle undercurrent of danger. "Well then, cheers. What shall we toast to?" "To our meeting." They clinked glasses. The sweet taste of wine spread through his mouth. After a few sips, the atmosphere grew noticeably warmer. Claire became more talkative. "Jim, when did you get married?" "About 30 years ago, when I was young." "That's a long time. And you, Claire? How long have you been married?" 25 years together. But lately, how should I put it? We seem to have lost interest in each other." Claire's voice carried a hint of melancholy. The wine seemed to be making her more open. "That happens." "Same with us, honestly." Claire hesitated, then asked, "This may be an odd question, but how are things with your wife in the bedroom?" The question caught James off guard. His wineglass trembled slightly. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, forgive me. I must be a bit drunk." Claire's face reddened, but her gaze remained serious. "It's nothing to apologize for. To be honest, we haven't slept together in a long time." Hearing James's answer, Claire nodded. "Us too. Even when my husband is home, if it happens once a year, that's a lot. So, to be honest, I'm very lonely." Her voice wavered. It was unclear whether it was the wine or heartache. "I've been alone for 3 months now. I'm going out of my mind. I wouldn't tell anyone else this, but somehow with you, I want to say everything." At that moment, Claire's hand came to rest on the back of James's. Warm, soft touch. "I haven't had anyone to talk to about this either." "Exactly. It seems we're both going through difficult times." Claire's fingers tightened around his hand. James's heart began to race. For a while, they sat in silence, looking at each other, a strange tension thickening the air. Whether from the wine or their shared loneliness, the atmosphere was charged. Claire moved closer. Her warm breath brushed his ear. "Jim?" "Yes?" "I must seem like a strange woman." "Why would you say that?" "Sitting here with another woman's husband, talking about such things." Claire's hand slid along his thigh. James froze. "Jim, am I making you uncomfortable?" "No," but his voice trembled. Long-forgotten feelings were beginning to stir. "I don't know what's come over me either." Claire's voice had changed too, lower, softer. They gazed at each other. Faces flushed from wine, breath quickening, the space between them shrinking. "Jim!" She spoke his name and drew even closer. Her lips were so near his ear, they seemed about to touch. "We shouldn't be doing this, should we?" James asked, his voice unsteady, though his body was already responding honestly. "I don't know, but right now, I want to think only of this moment." Claire's hand traced his face. Soft, warm touch. In that instant, James's dormant instinct, slumbering for 30 years, awakened. He could no longer hold back. Their lips met. A cautious, trembling kiss. Long-forgotten excitement and longing flooded through him. Claire took James's hand, and wordlessly, they moved toward the bedroom. In that room, where afternoon sunlight filtered through the curtains, they soothed each other's loneliness. Long-dormant feelings reawakened, and time seemed to stand still just for them. An hour later, James lay beside Claire, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't comprehend what he had done or what to do now. "Do you regret it?" Claire asked quietly. "I don't know." But today, this hour, I was truly happy. Me too. He glanced at the clock. Almost 6:30. Eleanor would be home soon. I really have to go, James said, hurriedly dressing. Jim. Yes? Today. It's our secret. James nodded. He understood without words. Back home, he stood under a hot shower, the events of the afternoon feeling unreal, like a dream. Soon, Eleanor returned. What did you do today? Oh, nothing. Watch some TV? James caught himself lying again, but this time, the weight of it pressed down on him. At dinner, Claire's image surfaced again and again in his mind. Her warm body, her gentle touch, the special time they had shared. What have I done? He asked himself. But instead of regret, he felt something else. A sense of rediscovered masculinity he had long forgotten. From the next day, James's life changed completely. Waking in the morning, his first thought was of Claire. After Eleanor left for work, his feet carried him upstairs. Thursday, 10 in the morning. James rang the bell. Oh, Jim. Claire opened the door, dressed casually. Unlike the day before, there was no trace of embarrassment. Instead, she seemed genuinely happy to see him. I was afraid after yesterday you might think ill of me, but you came. I didn't know what to do myself. Come in. Perhaps another cup of coffee? The words carried a different meaning than before. They both understood it wasn't just about coffee. No sooner had he sat in the living room than Claire settled beside him, bolder than the day before. I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about you, Jim. Really? Really, I'm glad. I thought it was just me. Her hand naturally found its way to him, less tentative than before. Can we spend time together again today? This time, James didn't hesitate. He had been waiting for this since the previous evening. They went to the bedroom again. Everything felt more natural, more passionate than before. 2 days later, on Saturday, Eleanor had to work a night shift. I'll be late. Sort out your own dinner. As soon as Eleanor left, James went upstairs. Now, excitement outweighed any guilt or shame. My wife's working a night shift, so I have plenty of time, he said with a smile. Then we don't have to rush. That evening, they had their first dinner together. Claire made pasta herself, nothing like the meals Eleanor prepared. Delicious. You're a good cook. I've had to learn to cook for myself with my husband away. I'm envious. I can barely boil noodles. Claire smiled. I could teach you. Start with simple dishes. They spoke tenderly, like lovers. In 30 years of marriage, James had never felt anything quite like this. A week passed. Now James went upstairs almost every day after Eleanor left. Claire's invitation, "Would you like to come up for a cup of coffee?" became their signal. It was never just about coffee. Sometimes they were in the living room, sometimes in the bathroom. What began as exciting and new gradually became routine. Jim, is it normal for us to see each other every day? Claire asked one day, a trace of anxiety in her voice. Why? Do you regret it? No, I'm just afraid we'll get caught. As long as we're careful, it'll be fine. But James, too, was beginning to feel uneasy. A month passed. The initial thrill had faded. Meetings with Claire became routine, their special quality gradually disappearing. How about today we try something new? Claire suggested, but James felt none of his earlier interest. Let's just do what we usually do. You've seemed distant lately, Claire observed. He couldn't deny it. It was true. Once the intensity of the forbidden affair wore off, it had all simply become habit. One evening during dinner with Eleanor, eating in their usual silence, she suddenly said, "You've seemed different lately." Different how? Your expression changed. You seem happier sometimes, but other times you stare into space. James's heart skipped a beat. He had tried to be careful, not to raise suspicion, but had she sensed something? Maybe it's because the weather's improved. That night, James couldn't sleep. It felt strange lying next to his wife while thinking of Claire. How long could this go on? The next morning, James went upstairs as usual. Why didn't you come yesterday? Claire asked, with a hint of hurt. I was just tired. You've been saying that a lot lately. Are you bored with me? Claire's question caught him off guard. It wasn't that he was bored, but it certainly wasn't what it had been. It's not that. I've just been thinking, is this really sustainable? What do you mean? What if we get caught? My wife would be humiliated. Claire's face hardened. And you're saying this now? If you thought that, you shouldn't have started this. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I thought you cared about me. Now you're making me feel like a burden. Claire's voice rose. He had never seen her like this. Claire, calm down. Calm down? We've been seeing each other for over a month, and now you say this? James didn't know what to say. Claire had a point. I'm just confused. Maybe we should take a break. A break? For how long? A few days. I need to think. Claire stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. Fine, but don't keep me waiting too long. Back home, James sat on the couch, deep in thought. A month ago, he never imagined things would become so complicated. Now he didn't know which way to turn, continue with Claire or end it. He had no answer, but one thing was clear. If this continued, eventually something would go terribly wrong. 3 days passed without James going upstairs. Claire sent several messages, but he didn't reply. He needed time to untangle his feelings. Around 2 in the afternoon, his mobile rang. Hello, is this Mr. Morrison? This is the manager at Fairway Supermarket calling about your wife. It was Eleanor's workplace. A sense of dread washed over him. Yes, speaking. What's happened? Your wife injured her back on the job. She's been taken to the hospital. She's in the emergency room at City General. James hurriedly called a taxi and headed to the hospital. His heart pounded. While he had been consumed with thoughts of Claire, his wife had been hurt. Arriving at the emergency room, he saw Eleanor lying on a gurney. Her face was pale and twisted in pain. Eleanor, what happened? I strained my back lifting stock. A doctor approached and explained, no surgery is needed, but she'll require hospitalization for 2 weeks of complete rest. Any movement could worsen the condition. When Eleanor was moved to a room, James sat on a chair beside her bed. Seeing his wife in a white hospital gown felt strange. I'm sorry, I should have been more careful, Eleanor said weakly. It was so unlike her usual strong demeanor. What are you talking about? How is this your fault? James took her hand. It was rough and wrinkled from years of work at the supermarket. You've been through so much because of me. Don't say that, we're husband and wife. That night, James stayed at the hospital. Watching Eleanor toss and turn in pain, he thought about what he had been doing for the past month. Around 3 in the morning, Eleanor woke and asked for water. As James handed her a cup, she said, You've seemed happier lately, you know? Really? I even thought maybe something good had happened. James's heart clenched. Even now, his wife was worried about him. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe. Anyway, I was glad to see you in good spirits. When Eleanor fell asleep again, James gazed out the window. The pre-dawn air was cold. The next morning, James went home to pack a bag for Eleanor, clothes, towel, toiletries. Just then, his phone buzzed with a message. It was Claire. Are you really not coming? I'm waiting. James hesitated, then replied, My wife is in the hospital. I won't be able to come for a while. Oh no, is she very ill? Herniated disc. They're saying 2 weeks. So we won't see each other for 2 weeks. James didn't respond. Right now, his wife was more important than Claire. Back at the hospital, Eleanor was awake. Thank you for bringing my things. It's nothing. I wonder how much the treatment will cost. Don't worry, we have insurance, but I won't be able to work. Our income will take a hit. Seeing Eleanor's anxiety, James felt a pang in his chest. While he had been carrying on with Claire, his wife had been worrying about money, pushing herself until she got hurt. Don't think about that. I'll figure something out. I'll earn some money. What will you do? I'll look for some work. Eleanor looked at him in surprise. What kind of work can you do at 63? Just rest at home. No, I need to do something too. That evening, after Eleanor fell asleep, James went down to the hospital lobby. Checking his phone, he saw several missed calls from Claire. Jim, why haven't you been answering? I'm at the hospital. How is your wife? She's okay, but she'll need to stay a few more days. So you're home alone now, right? Shall I come down? James hesitated. Before, he would have welcomed the idea. Now, he wasn't in the mood. I'm tired today. Let's talk tomorrow. Really? I've missed you so much. Claire, I'm sorry, but my head is full of my wife right now. Claire was silent for a moment, then said, All right, but don't keep me waiting too long. Hanging up, James returned to the room. Eleanor was still asleep. Sitting beside her bed, he studied her face. At 65, Eleanor bore the marks of time. Crow's feet, weathered skin, streaks of gray. But strangely, tonight she looked beautiful to him. After 30 years of marriage, when had he stopped truly seeing this woman? When had he stopped appreciating her? James gently took Eleanor's hand. She opened her eyes. You woke me. What are you doing? Just thank you. For what? For 30 years. For everything. Eleanor looked at him in surprise. What's come over you? You're not sick too, are you? No. I just realized I have a lot to be grateful for. Tears welled in Eleanor's eyes. You silly man. Why are you making me cry? But she squeezed his hand tightly too. It was a warmth he had long forgotten. In that moment, James understood. He had been beside the person who mattered most, yet he had sought comfort elsewhere. The one who truly loved him, who worried about him, she was here, in this hospital bed. A week had passed since Eleanor was hospitalized. Throughout, James had been torn between the hospital and home, caring for his wife. Claire had called a few times, but his replies were short. I'm still at the hospital. She'll need more time. Claire's calls grew less frequent. She must have understood. Thursday morning, the attending physician brought good news. Her condition has improved significantly. She can be discharged tomorrow. Really? Eleanor brightened. She was tired of hospital life. But she'll need complete rest at home for another week or two. No heavy lifting, no prolonged standing. I understand, James said. The next day, he helped Eleanor into their apartment. Settling her on the couch, he placed a cushion behind her back. Thank you. I never knew you were so thoughtful. I've always been this way. You just never noticed. Eleanor smiled. He hadn't seen her look so radiant in a long time. What's for lunch? I'd love some chicken broth. I'm so tired of hospital food. James went to the kitchen. He could manage broth. When he set the bowl before Eleanor, her eyes widened. Oh, that looks delicious. She took a spoonful, tasted it, and nodded. It really is good. You've got a talent for cooking. I'll cook more often. Really? Only until I'm better? No, after 2. Eleanor looked at him in surprise. Why the sudden change? What's happened? James hesitated. Should he tell her about the past month? In the end, he decided against it. Instead, he said, While you were sick, I realized I've been leaning on you too much. Don't be silly, we just had different roles. No. From now on, let's share the household work. That day, while Eleanor napped, James went out to the balcony to take down the laundry. He suddenly remembered how, a month ago, Claire's panties had fallen. That was how it all started. Now it seemed to him that it might not have been an accident. But it no longer mattered. In the evening, James prepared a roast, Eleanor's favorite dish. Oh, that smells wonderful. Eat up. You need your strength. You too. You've been through a lot at the hospital. They hadn't shared such a heartfelt meal in a long time. Conversation flowed more easily than it had in years. I think I've recovered so quickly because of you, Eleanor said. What do you mean? Really? You came to the hospital every day. You cared for me. You held my hand. I don't remember the last time you were so tender. James felt ashamed. While he should have been caring for his wife, he had been thinking of another woman. I'll try to be better. What's gotten into you? Are you sure nothing happened? Nothing? I just realized how much you mean to me. Eleanor's eyes glistened. You silly, sentimental old man. But she looked happy. That night, for the first time in a long while, James slept soundly. The anxiety that had gripped him for the past month finally gave way to peace. The next morning, while James was making breakfast, the doorbell rang. Looking through the peephole, he saw Claire. After a moment's thought, he opened the door. Jim, I heard she was discharged yesterday. How is your wife? Much better, thank you. Good. So now you can spare me a little time. Claire's eyes held expectation, but James shook his head. Claire, I'm sorry, this can't continue. What do you mean? My wife hasn't fully recovered. I need to care for her. He hesitated, then added honestly, Actually, I want to end things between us. Claire's face went still. Why? Did I do something wrong? No, I've been thinking a lot, and I've realized this isn't right. Is this about your wife? Partly. But mostly, I've realized what I truly want. Claire looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. I see. You can't force these things. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. It was good while it lasted. Thank you, Jim. Claire turned and walked toward the elevator. Watching her go, James felt mixed emotions. Not regret exactly, but a certain sadness. He closed the door and returned to the living room. Eleanor was awake. Who was that? The neighbor from upstairs. She was asking how you're doing. That's nice of her. It's good to have neighbors who care. James went back to the kitchen and continued making breakfast. It truly was a new beginning. Several days later, James took Eleanor out for a walk. Her back was much improved, and she could walk slowly. The air is wonderful. The weather's nice, too. I think I've recovered so quickly because of you. I just did what I had to. Thank you. Really? Eleanor slipped her hand into the crook of his arm, a simple, natural gesture he hadn't felt in years. That evening, they cooked dinner together. Eleanor did what she could sitting down, while James handled the rest. It's fun cooking together. Let's do this more often. Really? Really. After dinner, as James washed the dishes, Eleanor said, You've changed so much lately. Softer. Helpful around the house. It's like we're newlyweds again. James smiled. It may be late, but let's start over. I'd like that. That night, James lay beside Eleanor, staring at the ceiling. His feelings were nothing like the tangled, anxious thoughts of a month ago. Instead, there was only peace. Listening to Eleanor's steady breathing beside him, he thought, growing old with this person, this is the life I truly want. Sometimes people realize too late what they had all along, and regret follows. James, through this moment of clarity, had been able to return before it was too late. Now, at the dinner table, a bowl of steaming soup before him, watching his wife eat in comfortable silence, James thinks the same thing each day. Because of her, I feel human again. He rises from the table and walks to the bedroom. Eleanor is sleeping peacefully. Lying quietly beside her, he makes a silent promise to himself. This is truly a new beginning. The rest of his life, he will live it happily with this woman. Outside the window, the moon shines quietly, as if blessing James and Eleanor's fresh start. Dear friends, people sometimes realize too late what they had all along, and regret follows. James, through this moment of clarity, was able to return before it was too late. Now, watching that dinner table, that bowl of steaming soup, the quiet wife eating across from him, James thinks only one thing. Because of this person, I feel human again. James rises from the living room and walks to the bedroom. Eleanor sleeps peacefully. He lies down quietly beside her and makes a silent promise. This is truly a new beginning. The rest of his life, he will live it happily with this woman. Outside the window, the moon shines quietly, as if blessing James and Eleanor's new beginning.